What lessons from the civil rights movement's connection to martial arts still resonate in today's culture?
Freedom comes with a price. It's not given. No one's going to give you power, and power is taken. It's never given. No one's going to say, well, hey, you can rule all this land and somebody. No one's going to do that. So that's all. That's the first thing. It was always taken, and the oppressors realized that because that's how they got everything. They came, they took the land, they went to another land, brought people over, enslaved them to build it up. So it's always been that, force. So it's never been truly understood, how do you keep people in line? How do you keep them, not wanting to do that? You keep them not wanting freedom or empowerment by keeping that fear invoked in them. And the Shaolin, started to teach the citizens. There's been many freedom fighters that are still not together. Cesar Chavez, who organized the growers in California, similar to Martin Luther King. Rizal in the Philippines, who resisted, and of course the Europeans shot him. So it wasn't just the U.S. It was other countries too that were colonized and controlled. Throughout history, and you keep that fear, you keep that avenue of explaining to people, well, you're not as good as me, you're not as intelligent as I am, you're not as smart as I am, and so as long as you keep pushing that button, and having that knowledge that, hey, that's right. Because my mother, I remember her telling me once where she lived in Texas, where she was born, she picked cotton. And she was telling me that during when they were going to town, there was boarded sidewalk. And she said if a group of people were coming this way and my mother and her sisters were coming this way, they'd expect you to jump off and jump in the mud, instead of sharing and squeezing by. And she said there were many fights because she said we did. My mother was always like, I guess that's where I kind of get some of it from. She said, no, we're not jumping off sour and we can share it. We're not jumping in the mud so you can have all this room and we get dirty. So she said, there were many fights, ongoing there. And so sharecroppers, again, another example of being taught fear. And that's why the Ku Klux Klan for a short period was successful because what they did was that's why the white chiefs were there to give it a ghost-like figure or a death-like figure, And one of the things that was I did research and was found out that some of them, the leader would have this big barrel underneath this white sheet, and someone, he said, you know what? I haven't had a drink of water since the Battle of Shiloh. And that was like 100 some years ago. So somebody would give him this 5 gallon thing of water and he pretended to drink it. And it went in down the tube into this big barrel under his robe. And so when people, when sharecroppers saw this, they're like, he just drunk 6 gallons of water, not even stopping. So this fear was done also during slavery. The slave masters would tell the slaves, hey, at night you hear all those sounds, you see all those eyes. We got those animals watching you. They train with us. They learn. Even the Bible was used as a weapon. They used quotes from the Bible, reconstructed it, of course, to ensure that, even God says that, you're supposed to be subservient to us. It's in the Bible. That's why all the pictures are painted of people, very light skinned, blue eyes, long straight hair, which isn't true. But you see, when you push that, and then when you form your, churches of color, and you see this figure of God, he has blue eyes, long blonde hair, it makes okay, now, so those people out there, they're under God, we're supposed to follow them and do as they say. Martial arts and in many cases help to dispel that because when you got to compete against someone and you were beating them, and that's something else that sports, Jesse Owens and others did when he went to the Olympics. and Hitler saw him run and beat his Aryan nation runners that they thought were the best in the world. So black people began to see that. Jack Johnson, the boxer, same thing. When he began to defeat these other boxers, and all of a sudden, hey, it's a black man who's a world champion. It's a black man who's the fastest in the world. So they're not the superior human beings that, they claim to be. And so that's what the 60s and the early civil rights movements did. Uh, Rosa Parks, for example, it was a little thing. This is why I always remember this. History is written by the victors, and they write it the way they wanted to. They make it sound the way they wanted to. People who were defeated can't write history because naturally they were defeated. So Rosa Parks, she refused to go back and bus, but it's also said that she saw the image of Emmett Till in the casket, and that's one of the reasons she didn't get up and go back. Now they try to reconstruct it to make it sound other, but that was the reason, and that also is a testament to his mother to leave the casket open so the world can see this is what. So you started to see people, and that's a martial arts stance. Now she didn't know how to kick and punch and do jump wheel kicks, but that was a martial arts stance of knowledge, okay, of fighting for freedom, of resistance. And that's what martial arts is. It teaches a resistance, whether it's to bullies or slave masters, it teaches a resistance. And so she started that. And so now all of a sudden people started marching. Okay. And that's martial arts, whether is you're not throwing punch, you don't have a pair of nunchaku, but you're resisting. Okay, and the Okinawan farm tools, that was the resistance. Okay, and they used that to defend themselves with. All right, and so anytime you have a resistance, that's martial spirit. Okay, that's what it teaches. It teaches you to fight and stay alive. In that era and in that form. So and that's why I teach my classes. I want students to know the history of resistance fighters. So it's a lot of people that were involved in it. So when you stand up for yourself, you're doing just like Martin Luther King did, just like Resolve did, just like Nat Turner. There are a lot of them that follow. So, you teach Geronimo, for example, who kept a quarter of the United States government at bay, for years. And he only had 25, 30 men. But he did guerrilla warfare raids, going in and out of the Arizona-Mexico border, and they couldn't catch him, because he was a fighter. He resisted. That's martial arts, okay? And he did that. So you see it in a lot of history. It's just not told in a way that makes people understand this is the resistance that martial arts teaches. And so the more people you have in it, and that's why people were afraid for us to learn. They didn't want us to learn about boxing. They didn't want us to learn about, and then it's in other things too, financing, the stock market, real estate. That's also a field that, they're going to start purchasing real estate. They're going to start investing in the markets, and they're going to start creating economic wealth, in their community. So that's something that's grabbed and pulled aside. But that's also martial arts for those who say, you know what? I'm gonna get 10 or 12 of my brothers. We're gonna pool a little bit of money together every month, and we're gonna go down to a certain neighborhood and buy some condominiums or some apartment complexes and start putting things in our community, okay, and building things where we could go to stay healthy. We're gonna start teaching different things and different ways of life, on doing that. So that's why martial arts is more than just kicking and punching. Many martial artists don't know how to kick and punch. Okay, they just don't know how to kick and punch, but they know about freedom and they know about teaching resistance. They know about teaching the true history. Okay, and that is martial arts.
Thank you, sensei.